Hello, praise the Lord. This is Pastor Tom of Father's House Church in Chicago, and I'm coming to you with a very important message. And if you are a believer, you probably have heard and seen of some pastor or multiple ministers lately coming down from their positions. Pastors having to resign, and it's been many lately, and these are major pastors. And I just wonder how many lesser known pastors also are going through similar things. But the Lord has given me a revelation that can help many people, even those that have fallen, even those that have been taken out. The reason why many pastors have fallen is due to sexual immorality. So this is something natural. And, let me say that when people get deeper in the Lord, they get closer to the Lord, and they start teaching on the mysteries of the kingdom and things like that, sometimes it seems like the enemy is able to get people to fall from something they thought that they had already overcome. That many have thought that they would have never succumbed to some kind of sin, in the fleshly realm. But God alerted me to something. I preached the message on yesterday at the church, and God had me to go to Revelation 17, and it talks about the mother of harlots. Now, we know Babylon, the mother of harlots, is, like we always look at it with a spiritual understanding. And some people say Babylon is this or that, So I don't want to get into the real meaning of what Babylon says, but the Lord, I believe, directed me to look at the fact of the term that's being used right there. The mother of harlots. So harlots is a prostitute. If you look up that word, it means a harlot, prostitute, someone who is, fornicating. It means fornicator. So we know that in the natural, these things are very bad. And as believers, we should have already overcome these things. These are some of the basic things. I remember when I was first in the church and I had become a believer. I was a teen, and the pastor kept mentioning fornication. I didn't know what he's talking about. I never heard that word before, fornication. And he kept crying out about fornication. Finally, after I don't know how long a time, I looked it up. I'm like, oh, he's talking about, sexual sins. So as believers, we know, we must stay pure and live right. You get married and you can be with your spouse. But look at all of the people. I don't want to name names, but there's been too many people falling from their positions, prophets even. And these are people that are anointed. These are people that have helped many people, a lot of them, and very, well known and everything. And then they lose huge ministries, huge, like their position that they were in. Now, of course, God can raise them back up, but there's no sense of going through all of that turmoil. And it's very painful, I believe, and it's painful for us to see people going through these things. So Revelation 17:1, he says, come see the judgment of the great whore. The great whore. So that whore is harlot, prostitute, fornicator. It's crazy that I never really looked at it in that way, but the Lord alerted me to say, now just look at the natural terms used to describe this phenomenon of this mystery Babylon, So we're going to take a lesson from what terms are used. She's called the great whore. A whore is someone who is just loose, either getting paid to do, sexual things with others, or just going around doing it for fun, whatever. And it says, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication. The kings, the leaders, committing fornication. And the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk from her fornication, from drinking the wine of her fornication. So this is something where we see that this mother of harlots, this great whore, is intoxicating the inhabitants of the earth with the wine, like drinking the wine of her fornication. So the Lord wanted me to see this in the natural and to see what's going on, because while we might be concentrating on spiritual matters, there is something, it's spiritual, but it's using the flesh to attack many people of God. People are going crazy, even in the church. And the world has just lost it. We had the vice president who wants to be president team up with a very whorish, like prostitute type of singer. Not even really, I don't know if you could say she's a singer, but just declaring sexual terms. And I was alerted by, someone else who had posted what was going on. I never heard of this lady before. And some of the stuff they posted, I'm like, I can't even believe it. And she couldn't even sing the song she was singing because it was so full of vulgar things and cuss words and body parts. And so you got the vice president who's running for the office of president, teaming up with someone who you could say is a major whore type of person, because that's what she's promoting. She's promoting complete sexual debauchery, evil, no respect for the way God set things up, So that's a spirit that is working and infiltrating the earth. And so God, now, I'm not saying this is a true interpretation of what this passage says, but the Lord wanted me to see what is he calling, because this is a major problem in the church. They've been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. Then it says, and the woman in verse 4 was arrayed in purple, scarlet color. It says, in her hand was full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. See, abominations and filthiness. This is what people like this woman who was performing. She's promoting very abominable things of fornication, very things that are full of adultery, full of like prostituting your body. And so abominations mean like idolatry and things that God says is detestable. So, and then filthiness, impure, morally impure, lewd, so these are actions that are being promoted in the earth. Now, the society is being deluged with this type of spirit. Because look at the current vice president, teamed up with this person who promotes whorish things, harlotry, prostitution, free, I don't even want to say too much about it because I don't even like to talk about these things, but this is a problem. And if somebody can hear this word today and get this revelation today, which we're going to finish soon in this message, they could be spared, a great trial and heartache as we see that is working, go to James. Go to James 1 and 12. It says, blessed is the man that endureth temptation. Now we're going to learn the key here. Very, very powerful. And we're going to end this. Blessed is the man that endureth temptation, for when he is tried, he shall receive a crown of life. He shall receive a crown of life, which the Lord has promised to them that love him. So blessed is the man who endures temptation, who doesn't give in to the temptation. Supremely blessed, that means. You're going to be well off. You're going to be happy when you pass the test. Temptation comes, though, through our flesh. And we're going to learn the key here. So if you endure the temptation, you're going to be more happier. When people give in to temptation, they end up being sad. They might have a moment of pleasure, but they're going to end up regretting what they've done later. I remember, I'll tell this story real fast. There was a friend of mine who was working with me years ago, and it was payday, and we got our checks, and I was really happy. And I see my coworker, my friend, he's got his head down, and he's like sad. I'm like, hey man, what's wrong? He's like, man, I was so dumb. In the past, he has babies with like 4 different women, And when he looked at his check, most of his check was gone. And he's like, man, I can't believe this. And I was happy because I had my full check, and he said, man, if I could redo it over again, I wouldn't have done that, because he got babies by different women, so they all have a part of his check, So, that's some of the regret, that people will have, and it hurts. Now, he says in verse 13, let no man say, when he is tempted, I'm tempted of God. Then go in verse 14. But every man is tempted when he is drawn away of his own lust and enticed. People are tempted when they're drawn away by their own lust. Now here is the key I wanted to share today. The word lust, one of the definitions, it means to set the heart upon. You become tempted when you set your heart upon something, or you could say your thoughts, your mind. When you set it upon something, you shouldn't. So if you encounter someone who may be a prospect of temptation that approaches you, or they didn't approach you, but you're tempted to say something to them, to get their attention, and maybe if you're a believer, and you can tell they're not a believer, you really got to be careful. You shouldn't be engaging in something like that. Then if you're a believer, and if you're married, of course, you really got to stay away from anything. So if you start setting your heart upon a person that's unlawful for you to talk to in that way, then what happens, you're drawn away. See, if you keep thinking, if you set your heart, it could be someone you see often in your job or something. And maybe it starts off with hello, but then later on, you might start complimenting that person, or they might start complimenting you on something. If they compliment you, you got to know when to say, oh, okay, thank you. Maybe throw them a compliment, but leave it at that and get out of there, But if you start buttering up, and then, you think of complimenting them, and you see they respond nice to you, then you're starting something. You're setting your heart upon that situation. Now you can get dragged away. It says you're drawn away. You're enticed. You begin to get enticed by your own lust. Every man is tempted when he is drawn away of his own lust and enticed. And then we know it says, when lust conceived, it brings forth sin. The sin conceives, it brings forth death. The key here, I wanted to share it with you today, don't set your heart upon things that are going to damage you. There's a minister who just a few years ago was prophesying the young lady. Now he somehow got in communications because they were in the same teaching class, biblical teaching class. He was the teacher. So he should have got his mind, no matter how nice that person seems or whatever, he should have got his mind off of her. He should have stayed in his place. But they started texting, and then one thing led to another. That's a disgrace upon him right now. And, I pray God will raise him back up, because I believe God even uses that man. But we have to be careful, each one of us. If you think you stand, take heed lest you fall. There's people that have thought they would never fall to something like that. And they were maybe even judgmental towards others. But then they fell at some point. Why? Because it says they're drawn away by their lust. Their lust, in this definition, it means, the original language means to set your heart upon. You got to quickly get your mind, your heart, your thoughts off of something that you should not be thinking about. Quickly. Don't dwell on it. Don't get drawn away by your lust and then enticed. And where it could bring forth death eventually, in that area. Sin doesn't have to bring forth total death, because if someone repents, God can restore them, But you don't want to go down that road. So the spirit of harlotry, prostitution, it's like normal now. Like my wife and I, 20 years ago, we saw someone standing, a lady standing on the street. We knew, we said, oh man, a prostitute right there, because she had this real short skirt and, the way she was dressed. Now you can see people dressed more lewd and, more bad than that prostitute was dressed. And you see it, in certain parts of the city or whatever. You could see people dressed very bad, and they're not even a prostitute. But that spirit of the prostitute, from the influence of that great whore. Remember, she's a mother of harlots, and I'm not saying that's the interpretation, but this is the analogy. But it's happening in the natural as it's happening spiritually. When it comes to knowing the truth and knowing Jesus. There's other meanings to that fornication from Babylon, but we're using it in this case to look at why is she so bad, and the terminology fits a problem that's happening right now with many ministers. They cannot be enticed. They shouldn't be letting their lust draw them away from what's right. You've got to resist. You've got to quickly, see, it says you set your heart upon. The Lord showed me sometime before, when an evil thought enters, there's a certain amount of time you have to cast that imagination down before it could start being a problem. Immediately when the wrong thought comes, if it's a thought of adultery, immediately cast it out. Don't even try to analyze. Maybe it could be okay in this way or that way. Even if you're having marital problems at home, God's not going to allow you to commit adultery while you're still married, and to, of course, have sexual things going on. You got to cast those things down. Even if you're still married, you should not be entertaining another relationship until you finalize, if there's some major problem in your marriage, where it can't be put back together. You wait till that thing is done. Wait till that thing is complete. Then even still pray, and ask God to lead you as far as another relationship. So things are wrong if you're married and an opportunity arises to have another relationship. You got to cast it down immediately. And don't let no arguments come. Oh, but this. Oh, but maybe. No. Right away. See, and just focus on Jesus. Say, Lord, I just have to wait. If that person is in my future, bring them back later. But right now, nothing. I mean, you shouldn't even say that, basically, to be honest. Just say, nope, and then trust God for whatever God may have to bring in your future, So, God bless you. I pray that this message will help somebody. Maybe it can help many people. If you know someone that might need this message, share it with them. And don't forget to share and like on social media platforms. It can get this message spread better so more people can get help, because I think people are ignoring some of the basic things. Then they're letting something as simple as the spirit of adultery to get a hold of them, and sometimes they're forgetting the basic steps. So do not set your heart, cast down every imagination that exalts itself in your mind and your heart against God's knowledge. Cast those things down and follow Jesus. Keep your mind on the things above. Keep your mind on Jesus. Continually fellowship with him. Rejoice in his spirit. He will help you in any situation. He will deliver you from any heartache you might be going through. Watch, especially in those rough times when the devil tries marriages. Sometimes things could be said by a spouse that could hurt you. And a lot of times the devil will be waiting for something like that. He's the one that made them say the wrong thing, and then he could try to bring someone in the next couple days and in a weak moment. So watch those times. Stay faithful to Jesus. Stay faithful. Humble yourselves to each other. Pray about everything. God will bless you. All right, God bless you. And I hope to come back again soon with another word from the Lord.
Ought to speak the name of Jesus.